Hey guys, John Hero here. I wanted to make a separate video about thinking mnemonically because in one of my previous videos on learning, I talked a little bit about it, but I don't know if I fleshed it out as much as I wanted to. So in this video, I wanted to show you how I memorized the first 36 digits of pi. And you might think that to be some sort of fantastic feat of nature, of, you know, like I'm some sort of autistic savant, but it's nothing like that. It's very simple. And doing this, I'll show you how I did it, and you too could do it. It's anyone really could do it. There's nothing remarkable about this. It's sort of like doing a magic trick, right? And everyone is just wondering, you know, scratching their heads, how did that person do it? And then you reveal the trick, and it's like, oh, really? So let's go ahead and get to it. Be using the whiteboard today. Hope you're having a great day, by the way. So first off, pi is, of course, we know 3.14159.265 and so on, right? It's like, well, who's going to sit down and actually spend time memorizing and deliberately focusing on each one, right? These numbers are abstract and inert and have no meaning, no saliency. So let's inject some meaning to them, shall we? And so the way to do that, and I'm sure maybe you've thought about doing something like this, and I'll show it on the whiteboard here. Each number, we'll just go down each number here. All of this you'll find within pi, correct? Yeah, so let's see if we can devise some sort of key, because the goal here is to make it emotional, make it inject with meaning, and what better way to inject something with meaning than creating a story. And so that is, on a previous video I talked about that, how to learning things is easier when we can create stories, especially outlandish stories. The brain loves anomalies and things like it thrives in anomalies and surprises. And outlandish, bizarre, you know, even crude things. So let's see if we can create something like that. And the only way to really do that with what we're working with is just numbers, is to create a key that will each number will represent a letter in the alphabet, right? So let's try that out. I've created my personal key, but anyone can create their own, and it's sort of like, it's an intuitive thing, right? One, to me, what comes out to me whenever I think of one, as far as a letter, is L and I, right? But that can vary depending on the person, okay? And I'll show you my personal key for each number. So for one, like I said, is L and I. So every time I see a one in pi, I think L and I, right? And I'll show you the system that I have. Two, for me, two is T, O, and M. Now you're thinking, where are we going here? Well, you'll see that. So like I said before, each number is going to translate to a letter, and you might think, well, there's only, you know, we only have 10 numbers here, and there's 26 letters. Well, each number can have more than one letter, okay? So that we can have a broad reach, a lot of options and variety, and you'll see what I mean by that whenever we actually try to memorize the string of pi. So let's go down. For me, 3 is R and C, 4, G, A, and F. Again, this is pretty arbitrary. Really, it's intuitive. Whenever, like for example, if I ask you to close your eyes and just say, what is the first letter that comes to mind when I say 7? And then boom, it has to be a feeling, right? So whenever you see the number anywhere, and you'll find when you do this system, you'll start to see numbers out in the wild, and you'll start to think letters. It's a pretty interesting phenomenon. So we'll continue. Very intuitive, like I said. So 5 for me. 5 is S and H. 6 is B and E for me. 7, V and U. 8, K and Y. You can see that, yeah, roughly. 9, N, P, 0, D, and Z. And really, there's no rhyme or reason. Maybe you'll find that S looks like a 5 to you. For example, 4, sometimes I don't know why, but maybe the F could remind you of 4. 3 could be sort of a hard, harsh letter, and R and C seem to be harsh letters. I'm sorry, 3, a hard number. And then 2, T, right? 2 starts with a T, and then maybe there's an O and also in 2, and then M has 2 humps. That's how I see it. So 1 hump, 2 hump, and then that to me seems like a 2. 1, pretty straightforward. L looks like a 1. I can seem like a 1 as well, and then so on and so forth. But this is not hard and fast. This really, the key to this is finding sort of like cryptography in a way, finding a legend that works for you. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, we're back again. You'll see on the board here that I wrote the first 36 digits of pi. So you'll see here 3, 1, all the way here. So I didn't have enough room, so yeah, I just continued down here. And so our task is to see if we can somehow, maybe not commit this to memory, but create some sort of a story that will help make it more memorable, more salient. And this again ties back to thinking mnemonically, and which is really just utilizing our brain's capacity for thinking and making these crazy stories, right? That is an advantage to learning, okay? So we created our, let's see, here it is. We created our legend here. Well, this is my personal one that we'll be using. And so we'll just go down, and what I'll do is I'll just fast forward through the video. And essentially what I'll be doing is for each number here, underneath each number here, I'm going to write down our letters. So for example, 3 is R and C. And you'll see why the system will work. R and C. 1 is L, I, right? 4, G, A, F, L, I, S, H, N, P, 2, T, O, M, B, E, right? And I'll just continue on all the way, and you'll see the whiteboard. I'll just fast forward through that part, and then all the way down here. Alrighty, so you'll see, following our legend here, where 1, again, is Li, 2 Tom, 3 Rc, right? And again, this is all for creating a story. We're hijacking these letters so that we can string them together to create a story. And you'll see how we do that in a second to make pi memorable. So 3 Rc, right? And then all the way to 8 here. It's 36 digits of pi. AY right here. So now what we're gonna do is, all we have to do is, we're armed with these letters. Now let's see if we can create words with these letters. Okay? And this to me is the fun part. And I've already, I'm not gonna lie, I've already made my own story, but I'll show you how the process, and eventually this, it'll become automatic when, not the story making, but the letters transferring over to, the numbers transferring over to a letter, and then you just automatically just thinking them. It'll be a knee-jerk reaction. And then once you have these letters, then the fun part comes in. And so we have our letters here for each number. Okay, so what I do is it's like a puzzle game at this point, where if 3 is RC, you sort of start with R and see if you can move on. It's sort of like let's see, I see R-I-G, ooh, rig. Do you see what I did there? I see R right here, and you could start with C if you'd like, if you can find a word with C, and then you start with C, and then moving on to 1, which translates to L-I-C-I-G, and if you can create a word that way. But this is a story that I've made. So I see R-I-G for 4, right? So I'm going to circle these guys. So boom, I have my, and I'll just do that in black somewhere up here. R-I-G, rig. Like, what am I going to do with that? Well, let's see if we can find more pieces to the story. Let's see I, and then S is, oh great, rig is. Well, what is rig? And so, well, see, so the next word would be, and for me at least, you could do pobs, you could do po, P-O-E, you could do N-O-B, knobs, ooh, knobs. Excellent, knobs. So Rig is knobs. Okay. And then I'm just going to progress forward what I've fabricated. But you have to understand here that you could, it's so long that it follows this path, right? So 3RC, right? So long as you start with a letter and then you progress forward and just creating words, it is valid, right? It doesn't have to be my particular chain. And again, it doesn't have to be my exact legend, right? Okay. If one feels like a V to you, then one is a V, right? So this is what I've created. I'll just write it up here. The story is rig is knobs, chin up, clock, geobar, CK, coops, doy. So what does that mean? Well, we'll talk about the meaning, to me at least, and again, this is highly personal, but this is just an example that I use. This is following this same pattern. So I've connected all of these letters using this system, and this is what I found, right? It could very well have been another chain of words, but you're probably wondering, well, how am I going to remember this, right? Well, to me, again, this is highly personal. Rig is not, I'm thinking of an oil rig, and in my mind, it transforms into a doorknob, and it's, you know, multiple doorknobs because it's plural. And I was like, wait, how can you think of just, this is where it gets fun, and imagine it, in a chin-up, I'm imagining an individual doing a chin-up, right? As you know, you go through this door that is suddenly transformed from a rig to a door, and then you see this gentleman doing chin-ups, and you see a rooster, or, you know, again, we talked about the more profane and bizarre and inappropriate, the more likely your brain is to remember. It could be a rooster or another thing. And then I see I look further back and I see a bar of geologists. And that's why it's called a geo bar, because it's a bar just with geologists. And it kind of parlays into how the rig, like an oil rig, you can imagine how geologists would find themselves near a rig, right? So it's a bar full of geologists. And then I see Louis C.K. performing. C.K. Performing, you know, cracking earth jokes, and then suddenly a coup forms where everyone tries to overthrow Louis C.K. Coops. Everyone tries to overthrow C.K. from the stage, and then I think to myself, well, obviously they would do that, considering his, you know, misbehavior and sexual allegations. So again, you can see how the more absurd and silly the story, the more likely I remember. This is where I put my mouth, or money where my mouth is, rather. And I'll show you how the story that we made using the letters and the key, right, actually translates to 36 digits of pi. So here we go. R, what is R? Well, R is 3, 1, G is 4, 1 is, oh, I'm sorry, that's an I, so yeah, of course, so I would be 1, S is 5, 2, Y is 8, and 8. So, 3.14159265, 3589793238, 462-643-3832795028. And that is how I learned the first 30. Again, this is not me impressing or flexing or trying to show off, but this is showing you that you hear about all these people memorizing these crazy strings of numbers, but really there's a method to what seems like madness, and it's really just hijacking our brain's proclivity for the absurd and stories, and our brain thrives on creating stories, okay? And so this is what we did. Numbers are abstract. We cannot really create stories with numbers. So what do? Well, let's create a legend where each number represents a letter. Okay, what are stories composed of? Well, words, right? And what are words composed of? Letters. Okay, so now that we have a system where numbers translate into letters, we can string together letters to create words. And again, that's the fun part. And then once you created your story, your words, now this is maybe arguably even a more fun part, is where you close your eyes and you imagine how your story plays out. Really feel it. Really feel a presence I'm actually there at the bar. I can smell the cigarette smoke. I can see people discussing about Earth and the crust and the mantles, and then I visualize Louis Z.K. trying to crack an Earth joke but fails miserably, and then everyone just goes and piles upon him and starts hitting him and whatnot. A coup has been formed, and then I think to myself, well, duh, doy, obviously. And so, you know, that part is really fun. So it's a longer video, I think, but hopefully when I edit it, it'll come out to something more, you know, manageable. But thanks again. I don't know how to categorize this video. It'll probably just be miscellaneous for now, or but anyway, I will be putting up more videos on neuroscience. Hopefully I can actually get that out by today. And what else? This tea is really good. I think that's all for now. Thanks again.